In this video, I will show you how to make lavenders using 6 different stitches. Each stitch brings about a different looking lavender. The first one is using the Granitos stitch. It is a super easy and a no fuss stitch. Make 3 straight stitches between 2 stitch points to make each bud of the lavender. Place them at random angles for a nice effect. The Granitos work perfectly as a bud due to its shape and also the slight plump and embossed look. I have used 6 strands to work these buds. The lavender stalk is finished. Now do the stem using 3 strands of a pale green color using the stem stitch. You can opt to work the stem before you work the buds too. You can also opt not to work the stem between the buds and keep it only to the bottom. The next stitch is the French knots. I start by making the stem using a long straight stitch. To make the slight curve, I pin it down using a tiny stitch. Now, I take a purple shade to work the French knots randomly and with gaps. Next, I take another shade to make more French knots to fill some of the gaps. I take yet another shade of purple to work a few more knots in some of the gaps. This way, I'm able to make a lavender stalk with flowers in different shades. This method is great if you're working on a pattern that shows a bunch of lavenders. The third one I want to show is using the lazy daisy stitch. I begin by making the stem using the stem stitch in 3 strands. I then take a shade of purple, 3 strands, to work the lazy daisy randomly. These lazy daisies vary in lengths, and also notice that I'm not working over every stroke. I'm leaving some to come back and work using a different shade. Once I'm done with the lighter shade, I use a darker one to work on the rest of the strokes. These overlapping stitches create a beautiful effect. The fourth one is done using the Russian chain stitch. I used this one on a more representational pattern. I begin the pattern by making a lazy daisy for the topmost bud. Then I start with the Russian chain stitch. I make diagonal lazy daisies on either side that emerge from the same point. Then I bring out the needle from below this and loop it under the 2 diagonal stitches to create another lazy daisy. That is a Russian chain stitch. This stitch gives me a great opportunity to work with different colors, so I create a sort of gradient effect. I make the next 2 Russian chain stitches in a different shade. I then work the other two in a darker shade. I work only the diagonal stitches on the bottommost flowers for the sake of the pattern. Make the stem using a single straight stitch. The next one is made using the Bullion Knots. The Bullion Knots is a popular stitch to make lavenders. I loved using this stitch on this particular pattern. Bullion knots can be bunched beautifully to create a more lifelike lavender stalks. I finished the stem using the stem stitch in 3 strands. The last lavender is a special one. It uses the partial whipped spider wheel stitch. Use 3 strands of the thread or lesser. Begin by making the small straight stitches for the foundation. Come out from one side on the bottom of the foundation to start whipping around each of these spokes. Go under the second spoke and turn around to wrap around it and go back under the second and third spoke. Turn around and go under the third and fourth spoke. Then turn around and go under only the fourth spoke. Repeat this the other way. This stitch follows the whipped spider's wheel method, but partially. You will see that the whipping builds on each spoke, creating an embossed texture that looks like lavender buds. When you reach the top, pass the needle through the fabric and end the stitch. Work on each section all the way up. Make the stem with a stem stitch. Work the tiny leaves using the satin stitch. Now, on to the month. Use 3 strands of your embroidery floss to stitch the month. Make small stem stitches to work on the letters. The lavender pattern is done. I hope you have found your favorite lavender from these. If you want more exclusive patterns to work these lavenders, they are available in my Patreon page. Do care to check the link in the description to become a patron. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.